But when you bring it into the construct, this is why it's so close to Genesis in the creating, in the creation of words. It's like Tohu and Bohu now are brought into the world. What is between Tohu and Bohu is the potential to be filled up. So you're brought in form of void, and then what is the whole journey of the material world? It's to journey through it, through separation of self, to find self, so you can fill self back up. Now you have the full definition of Tohu Bohu outside of nothing.
So in other words, you now have form.
You now have form.
And you're filled.
Filled.
So you're not formless and void. You have form and you are filled.
But the ironic part of it is when you truly in the journey of life, as what we know, you are journeying through really the experience of finding nothing again. Right? This is the root, right? Because the whole purpose of us being here, we think it's the ingathering the information that is simply. Information is just simply the anticipation of information to take form, that we would take the shape of that information, right? It's just a calculus for metaphysics. But the whole procedure is now when you see the line, we couldn't comprehend that here, or we probably could at one time, we lost sight of it here. But when we went through, brought in, we're realizing that we came from nothing, but what is nothing? Oh, you need to go into the experience to find nothing.
So you're going to come in formless and void in order to find form to fill you up so that you can go back to nothing again.
Because
everything is at.
Because up here you don't know what nothing is.
Right. So you have to
here.
experience it.
So what is nothing? Oh, nothing is love. Nothing is peace. Nothing is the completed frequency of the fullness of the word. It has really gone to the completeness of stillness, but yet is completely.
So it's the reconciling of the duality into one, which is really. This is so amazing.
It's everything.
So I know, but when you take it, like, there's a comprehension now in this that I didn't have before. So when you take war and peace, they're opposing frequencies, right? But when you reconcile them into one, they are a nothing frequency because they cancel each other out.
They're just polemics.
Right? They're polemics, opposite frequencies that are meant to be opposing. It's through the reconciliation to get to the place where they are now one, which is really nothing, which is 0 point.
You zero it out.
Which is complete balance in that place of nothingness.
Yeah.
So in other words, you are no longer distorted on either side. This is the essence of what we call being.
Right.
Right? I am.
Yeah.
So I am has no distortion.
No.
I am has
no wobble.
No war, no peace. It's simply I am, center point.
Right.
That is exactly right, the no wobble. I find it really interesting that the very next verse, what is Genesis 1:3? So we went through Tohu and Bohu. What's the very next verse? And God said, let there be light.
Right.
So taking what you were saying, coming in as formless and void, what is the shape that we're supposed to take?
Right.
Light.
That's the
light is frequency and information.
That's exactly what I'm extracting. So,
yeah.
So don't get ahead of, because I need to pen this, because you're brought in, like we comprehend nothing, formless and void, as formless and void is really you're filled up with light. You're translucent.
I see everything so there's everything that is also isn't. So formless equates to form in the next.
Right.
In the opposite.
So how can you form light if light is, right? You are simply light in the essence of nothing. It is. But so I can see it in here, this writing, that in this construct, because it's nothing, everything down here separated for the sake of filling up.
Through experience, right?
From beginning to end.
Yeah.
For the sake of experience,
yeah.
To find
nothing
again. So now, up here again, you comprehend nothing. Because you simply are nothing. You're like, what is nothing? Because I'm everything.
So
right. So you need to go down for the sake of experience. Let's split everything in half to what we call polemics for the sake of experience. And then when you know and you can see, and the best stance for a polemic stance would be where?
Right in the middle.
If you were a scale, where would be the best stance to be? Right in balance, a scale. Because from that vantage point, my perspective sees that is that. Oh,
you know
there
what?
we go.
You connect this to the shamash. Remember, Jesse, we were talking about the servant candle, the shamash, and that's connected to the sun. In our universe, what is the center?
Sun.
The sun.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around the sun. So the sun, the logos, is the balance center point, which everything comes out from, but everything is going into, because the servant sun, the shemesh, sheen mem sheen, which is coded in it by itself, is that place of center point balance.
Yep.
I can actually see what science has been trying to comprehend. Yes, sheen mem sheen, shemesh. The two twin fires, and in the middle is the water.
Shimshon.
It's Shimshon, which is Samson, but Shemesh is also the servant candle in the menorah.
Right.
And so it brings everything into balance. It takes the two systems, so the trident that we've talked about, connecting to the Book of the Covenant with the three feasts, is actually, the whole thing is about bringing it back into center balance. Only one more point I want to make. I'm connecting this to the Big Bang Theory. So science has wanted to know where the beginning has been. And in the beginning, they said that there was a Big Bang in which all of the, some people have rendered out, like fragments of light were spread out for the sake of experience. But in actuality, that's consciousness. So in the place of nothingness is a place of wrestling, like something that is ready to explode out, because it's a container of everything that is not meant to be contained. It's meant to be experienced. So in that place of nothingness, there's an agitation, hence why creation started. Like everything exploded outwardly so that it could be drawn back together. Yeah. So you have that first Big Bang. So they're looking at in the wrong place. They're looking at it in a physical manifestation, which it was never initially a physical manifestation.
I think that they haven't defined it to what it is. They don't, like, it's defined as something that is not, but it still is part of the equation because it's part of the wrestle still. It still is going to equate to, when it's fully revealed, to part of the equation that made them. And they're going to because they're finding what's not. It's not that. So then they should, but prudence would say, well, then turn in a direction that is, because how long have they been searching that one for, and they're still wrestling that one?
Because they're not looking at that core essence of the consciousness, which is there for the creation, so that it can experience itself.
Well, I think
the different fractals.
I think they've gone in such
light.
a direction that they're afraid to turn, and the potential of what might not be to them might actually be. But
right.
They don't have the ability to discern that and decipher that, so it's very intimidating. So they just rather continue down the hole that they've already bored.
Well, it's in a way, right, it's in a way to not look at spirituality and not look at consciousness, because spirituality, consciousness, and that of the material world are all intricately combined into one for the sake of experience. So you can't necessarily eliminate any of those factors because they're all interrelated.
That's it, yes.
Right?
Yes.
For us to have the experience to realize that we're coming back into one, the place of the Aleph, the place of nothingness where everything is. The end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end.
Mm-hmm. This is a thought I've been having on the cherubim and the seraphim. I'm wondering if one of them equates to form and the other equates to
void.
Void.
Yes. They are exactly opposing frequencies.
So.
And we have to remember, like I have to remind myself of this constantly, that everything is energy. Everything is energy. So the change in perspective for me is to not limit it into a word form that says, well, one is good and one is bad. Because that's not it. That's a simple term of a lesser narrative for what the intention originally was for. They're opposing frequencies. So we put words to it, right?
Well, I think it's just
good,
like,
bad, light, dark, form,
well, I
void.
think it's just like the father and the mother, and it equates to creation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's having one, the container, and one, that which is the manifestation.
Mm-hmm. But right now where we're at, it would make sense. You're very spiral in thinking. I'm very linear thinking. So if we take it into the essence of science, of things they've already proven through sacred geometry, which is lines and circles, right? We have the Fibonacci sequence, and we have the golden mean. The golden mean, right? That's all the lines that create the lines, and then the Fibonacci sequence is the spiral. And you have to have both. That's what sacred geometry is about. So it takes those two portions to make everything. So, because you think spirally, I think linear. But between the two, it's the creation of the whole. Spiral, linear, spiral, linear, spiral, linear. But they're all happening simultaneously through the expression and experience of time, which appears linear, but it's happening all at the same time. So it's just stretched out through time so that we have a point of reference as a beginning and an end, but reality, it's happening all simultaneously. So through the linear, the codes have to be written, but through a spiral way of thinking, it has to be filled up with more meaning. And so you are taking the raw codes and putting expression into them to make the fullness of creation happen by extracting the codes and then filling them up with meaning. So I have to know the basic blueprint. I'm going to know when the bet's added and deleted and the vav and the yod. Then it's given to one who has the spiral ability to actually make it birth forth. When you take a look at this, so again, just like as a recap, so the Logos gives the raw code. The Logos writes the raw code, but in order for it to take the fullness of expression, the Spirit has to come, who is spiral in thinking. That's why it's the feminine. The spiral thinking that then comes and does, if you want to use the term magic, I don't know what else to say. It's that point of breathing life into the words so that there's a fullness, so that it can then be created. So that we're not living in a linear time-space element. We're living in something that is breathing, that is full of expanse. Because linear thinking can't do what the spiral thinking can, but the spiral can't achieve without the linear. I mean, they work hand in hand. I totally see that now. I totally comprehend that. And that's why, for me personally, that's why I was always attracted to your dad, in the fact of his ability to create expression through space. The way he did his house that you lived in. The way he creates expression. Everywhere he goes, he expresses through spirit. He takes the raw elements of what he can put his hands on, and then he creates a space that is full of beauty and life. I've never had that ability. I can go in a room and I can set forth furniture and I can make things happen very linearly, but I in myself can't bring the life into it. That's what spirit does. So the codes are the raw building blocks, and then spirit comes and brings the expression of them, which then expands into life and beauty and love. Because the two have to work hand in hand in order to make creation happen. And that's what we're learning. That's as coming in as dual, split natures, opposite frequencies, then we are learning that creation process through experience, so then we in turn can do the same thing. Writing the verse, expression of the verse. Writing the verse, expression of the verse. But we have to learn what that looks like in the dual system. How can you do it properly unless you experience it? You'd be making a mess of things, especially the code writer. I'm just going to haphazardly put these letters in different orders and here you go. Feminine spirit, make it happen. You'd have more chaos than what we have right now. And that's why we're trying to rewrite the ship, by literally rewriting the codes and then filling those codes up with expression so that we can have a new heaven and a new earth.